Welcome to the live stream of the Archaeoastronomy Database. Welcome, Helen. Welcome, Michelle. This is the first live stream that I have done, and so I'm kind of figuring it out as we go. Yeah, we were watching over on the Callanish Visitor Center, and they were streaming the event, and it was too cloudy, and they just kind of cut it off. So I decided to see if I could get this set up. So I kind of rushed over and tried to figure it out really quick with the software, and it seems to be working. So this is our live simulated view of the moon setting at its southernmost position. Full moon tonight, right here around the solstice at the Callanish Standing Stones on the Isle of Lewis, Outer Hebrides, Scotland. Hopefully the sound is coming through okay. This is the first time that I've done it live. Like I said, usually I have time to check and edit and make sure everything's in order. But it seems to be coming through. Okay, it looks like while I got things set up that my live view in Stellarium lost track for a minute, but we've got it back on now. So you can see the moon is just passing one of those stones there and starting to peek out again. Let's see, I'll zoom in just a little. And you can see the horizon back there behind the stones, if I toggle them off really briefly. And there's that kind of protrusion right there. And that's actually in the near distance, there's some rock outcrops there. And in the Neolithic, the moon actually would have gone behind that outcrop and disappeared completely. And then it would have appeared again after coming through and then peeked in between the stones again. So if I toggle really briefly back to 2000 BC, you see how much lower the purple lines are, representing the maximum lunar position. Here's modern, and here's back in the early Bronze Age, but close enough for our purposes here. You can see that the purple goes behind that mound and then reappears again. There's even theories that someone would be able to stand on these near features, and the distance from here to the moon would place a person's height in degrees of arc, exactly the height of the moon, so their silhouette would appear up against the moon. So you can imagine that would be quite the dramatic event. And actually, if you have had a chance to look at any of my lunar standstill alignment maps, I've got maps showing different places that have possible major standstill alignments. And in my analysis, I actually found that there are other sites right here on the Isle of Lewis. You know, this is Callanish 1, the main site, but there's other sites, Callanish 2, Callanish 3, Callanish 4. And I found that the majority of those sites in this vicinity actually have a double moon set, just like this, where the moon will go behind a horizon feature briefly as it sets, or in some cases rises, and then reappears again. It doesn't always do this anymore, just like here. I think there was one site I found that still actually does have a double moon set, but not quite in the same way as it did in the past, but still a similar situation. Whereas the others were like this, where the moon would then skim the feature that it's supposed to go behind. Does anyone have any questions? So you can see the moon peeking out there between the stones, and it's just setting. So if this was in the Neolithic, it would have just been reappearing now after its initial set behind the outcrop. And so this view that we're looking at, you've got the core of the circle. It's a fairly tight circle of tall stones you can see down there at the end. And then there's this avenue, double avenue with stones on either side. And we're at the north end of that avenue, looking a little bit west of south. So you can see that we have this meridian line, that green line you see to the left of the screen with an S beneath it. That's due south. And so we're looking just a little west of south. And you can see that the moon is just coming in line there. And so the modern moon will kind of skim past all the stones and set off to the right of the core of the circle there. But in the past, it would be just setting right here in the right-hand edge of the circle. So besides this longer avenue to the north that we're viewing from, there are lines of stones radiating kind of to the east, the west, and also on the south side of the circle. And I've done a little analysis on those too, and there's some possible other alignments going on. I see a question here asking why Callanish, the standing stones? So are you asking like why are we looking at the stones here in connection with the moon? If you can elaborate on your question, that would help. But basically, the theory behind Callanish is that the stones were set up specifically to mark this maximum southern position of the moon. If you look in the simulation here, you can see there's a orange line showing where the sun travels at the winter solstice, and the green line is when it a little bit lower, where it would be in the Neolithic at the winter solstice. And the moon can actually get further south in the sky than the sun ever can, but it does it over an 18.6 year cycle. This is the Major Lunar Standstill cycle, where the tilted orbit of the moon tilted a little over 5 degrees from the plane in which the Earth orbits the sun. And that orbit actually precesses or shifts what direction it's oriented in space over the 18.6 years. So when everything lines up so that the high point on that orbit coincides with the high point of the moon's orbit around the Earth and vice versa, it can get very low in the sky to the south and very high in the sky to the north over the course of a month. And that's going to be going on throughout 2024 and through 2025, where it reaches its maximum. Hopefully that answers it a little bit, but feel free to ask for more clarifying questions. I've gone ahead and pasted in the original link that they were streaming from Callanish before they cut off the stream, and you can kind of get an atmosphere for the stones there. You can watch it back at any time. It's now on their website available to watch back through, but it's no longer streaming live. Great comment, Helen. I think you're absolutely right. Based on the other sites I saw around there, and also sites I've seen all around Scotland and even beyond, I think that this double moonset feature of a site was very important to them. I think and once you have kind of the idea in your mind of how low the moon gets, I think that they were moving around in the landscape and looking for these positions where the moon would set twice when it was at its lowest position. And I think that's the reason they chose this site, and then they added the stones and enhanced the whole spectacle just by planning the exact place where you'd be positioned, and maybe some of that drama of having someone stand up on the outcrop, and any of the other features that they planned into it that we probably still have yet to discover. And a lot of times there's there's skepticism in some of the mainstream scientific community about whether they were interested in lunar standstills, to what degree, and how they could do all this. But in reality, once you understand the pattern of the sky and you're watching for these things, I mean, it still takes a lot of skill and a lot of understanding, but in another way, it also is kind of straightforward once you have that understanding and are looking for these features in the landscape. Really briefly, I'll pop up the map here, and we can see that we're positioned up here in the very north part of Scotland on the Outer Hebrides, Isle of Lewis. You can see the coordinates there for the latitude and longitude. You can see that the moon is currently just right here in the constellation of Sagittarius. As it's setting, it's just peeking out through the stones. So at this point, if we were further in the past, the moon would already have set at this point and would not go quite this far beyond the stones. It's still very useful to make these observations of the modern position. And for those that don't know, the tilt of the Earth has decreased slightly since the Neolithic when these stones were put up. And so it makes it so that the sun at solstices and the moon at lunar standstills does not quite reach the same extreme position as it did in the past. But we can still use modern observations to extrapolate the ancient position. Using software like this, we know exactly how many degrees difference it would be. And any photos that show the disk of the moon, we can know how far zoomed in the image is because we know the arc degrees width of the moon, and then we can calculate the ancient position very easily from that. Not to mention, it's just amazing to be at these sites when the alignments are taking place, even if they're not in the exact perfect position that they were in the past. It just is kind of magical to be able to have that experience. I'd really love someday to be able to be at Callanish for the Major Standstill. It's definitely on my wish list. If I zoom in this much, you can really see the moon moving between those stones quite rapidly. Yes, Helen, exactly. Helen is saying that the star positions would have varied in the Neolithic, and that is certainly true. Because not only does the tilt of the Earth's axis change slightly, but the direction that that tilted axis points in space shifts over time. So if you imagine yourself in a room with 4 walls, and you have constellations painted on all 4 of those walls, and then you orient yourself looking at one of those walls, and if that's the direction in which, say, the constellation Orion is, and that's during the winter time, as the axis shifts over time, you'll be facing at a different wall in that room towards other constellations. But the Earth-Sun system is relative to one another, and the tilt of the Earth and the seasons, and then the background stars can shift relative to the Earth-Sun system. So it's really just the Earth that's wobbling and changing which direction it points in space. But from our geocentric view, it seems that the stars are shifting slowly in the background. And I have several videos on the channel that illustrate the precession of the constellations against the background sky. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already done so. And also, some of this is for the benefit of those who might watch the stream back later, because I'll hopefully try and figure out how you can turn the live stream into a permanent watchable video. Since it's the first time I've streamed, we'll see how that works out. Okay, the modern position has now touched the secondary horizon there. So again, this is the second time that it's intersected the horizon. And this is exactly what would be visible right now at Callanish if the clouds weren't interfering. We would have seen the intersection further back in line with the circle, and then we would have seen this intersection with the horizon to the right of the core circle. And again, in the past, it would have gone behind the central feature, briefly appeared, and then it would have already set by now. As the moon continues to set, I'll just take a quick glance to my left. You can see this nearby stone, and to my right. And we're standing at this north end of the avenue between these two stones, looking down the row, and the core of the circle is centered there. These stones here are the stones of the circle, and then you can see there's a line of stones on the left and the right that extend out from the circle, and there's also some stones to the south that are just kind of all mixed up here in the view. You can't distinguish them very easily from here. And there we have the moon. Let's see if we shift our position a little to the left or right, towards that stone, or towards this stone. It'll change the situation a little bit. But those further out features are far enough away that they don't change too much here. And so the consensus is that, for this event anyway, the viewing would take place from this end of the avenue. Now, just for fun, if we follow that orange-yellow line around, and I were to toggle off the horizon here, you can see that the sun, oh, I was actually following the winter solstice line. So let me put back the horizon for reference here. So the moon's setting over here. And if we follow around to the north, you can see that the sun would still be glowing on the horizon, and it's really not all that far beneath the horizon, even at its deepest point, due north, because we're so far north here that the sun does not get very far below the horizon, and the sky doesn't get very dark. If you go further north and cross the Arctic Circle, then the sun would just come up higher and higher until it would reach a point where at the solstice it wouldn't set at all. I'll have to also do a video on where you can get the 3D Callanish features here and how you use this plugin in Stellarium to toggle that on in addition to the horizon landscape. So that might be a video people would be interested in. I've got lots of video ideas, so little time to get them all put together. Right now I'm making a huge push to get some of my core entries finished in the database. We're actually up to a little over 600 entries, and I've put out some maps showing some of the entries in the database, but eventually I want to put out the tool that can help you search the database and make better use of it. So the moon has just about set at this point. Okay, it looks like Helen's asking a little bit more about other alignments with the other stones. Let's see. I'd have to look back at my original analysis here. I don't recall any other lunar alignments, because the avenue looking back north didn't really seem to point exactly at the northern standstill, just because of the terrain and also that they're not exactly opposite each other in the sky. Let me take a look. Oh, actually, I do recall one here. Hopefully I'm still coming through. Again, this is kind of a lot to juggle. So if you look here to the right, and I've never seen this listed anywhere, but just outside of the avenue, there's actually, well, just the very last stone in the avenue is kind of offset, strangely, and it kind of has a long face to it. You know, it's got a narrow edge and a long edge. And it seemed to me that from a position maybe across the circle from there, there's another stone that you could stand at. And then viewing towards that stone that has the long face, that may actually point at the northern lunar standstill rising position. So actually, I think maybe I did see that on maybe Somerville's old map, but I haven't heard it discussed much since then. So that might be something well worth looking into during this season as well. And I believe that one is on my map. So it hasn't quite taken hold yet, but if there are people that are in the area and are interested in looking at the Callanish alignments at the other end, when it's not the southern alignment that's of the most interest right now, people could check out some of these northern standstill positions and compare. And then as for the kind of the east and west rows of stones, I'm thinking there may be stellar alignments connected there. But in any case, I would like to establish exactly what azimuth on the compass that those are pointing towards and exactly what declination corresponds to those. And that's just the kind of data that we should have and that we have so little of. So I'm always pushing for gathering the data. Alright, it looks like the moon has set. And so we'll probably just be able to wrap up the live stream here. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. For those watching back later, if you get a chance, please like and subscribe, share with others that might be interested. And I appreciate all of you who are here participating, and I really appreciate the support of longtime watchers and of the interest of new watchers. If you go to the YouTube channel and click on the description, you can see a link to the Archaeoastronomy Database website and Facebook page. Those are other great ways to participate. And if you're able to support the work by donation through Patreon or PayPal, that's greatly appreciated. And I really, really appreciate my longtime supporters. And they're really the reason that I'm able to keep doing this and able to move the work forward. I've got a lot of exciting projects on the horizon that I hope to get some of them out the door this summer. And of course, in the future, I look forward to more field work. I would love to visit Callanish someday, as I mentioned. And you never know, this live stream that we were watching was interfered with by clouds, and that can often happen. But whenever I'm out in the landscape looking for alignments, I just always hope for the best and stay with it. You never know when there's going to be a break in the clouds, an opening, and it's just exciting to be there with the possibility of being able to capture what's going on and to experience it. So I think we'll probably wrap it up there with our simulated live stream in real time as the moon was setting at the Callanish standing stones in the Isle of Lewis, the Outer Hebrides in Scotland, UK. Again, if you have any other questions, please post comments later if I can get the video to post permanently. Hopefully that'll be pretty straightforward. This is my first time trying it. And you can continue the discussion on YouTube or over on Facebook. Thanks for all your support.